did such a good job with the intro that you gave her a standing ovation, which I really appreciate. It's always hard to time your entrance on intros because you don't know if it's going to be like a short version or a long version, and then I wound up like sneaking up on you. No, but I really appreciate it very much, Heather, and I thank all of you for being here today and for inviting me to join you at what is really a gathering of some of the most dedicated and committed, I will call you, I believe you are, public servants in the state. That's what you are. And I'm honored to be with you, as we mark the 50th anniversary of the War on Poverty. You may or may not know the portfolio of responsibilities in my office. Some people do, some people don't. When I decided to run for Secretary of State, I remember I told my aunt, who lives in another state, that I was going to run for Secretary of State, and she said, "Well, that's great, so you'll be in charge of like diplomatic relations with other states." And I said, "No, that's not exactly it." Although I kind of wish it was, because I could run for re-election on the fact that we've had no war with Iowa at all. But as you probably know, we do elections oversight, we do securities regulation, and business services, and some other areas. But that's not really what I'm here to talk with you about today. What I'm really here to talk with you about is our shared commitment to making Missourians' lives better, which is what I think you do, and it's frankly why I ran in the first place. And I'll bet it's at the root of what so much of you do, day to day, on a daily basis. And as Heather mentioned, we sat down the other day and talked about the work that you do, and I am an admirer of it. And I think one of the things I was most interested in is the poverty simulation kit that you all do. And I'm looking forward to participating in one as soon as I can. And if it were up to me, every member of the state legislature would have to participate. But as I said, there's this thing that we all share, this drive to, on a daily basis, try to make Missourians' lives better. And I think for most of us, it probably comes from our upbringing. That's where it came from for me. I grew up in a home where, as Heather mentioned, my mom was a juvenile probation officer and my dad was a cop. So we didn't get away with anything at all in my house. But I grew up in this house where my folks took in boys whose own families were struggling. And it wasn't like we had a conversation around the kitchen table at dinner where they said, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this. What do you?" Because they already had two boys of their own, myself and my younger brother. And it wasn't, "What do you guys think about this?" It was just one of many lessons by example in the idea that, even when you know what the easy thing is, courage is about doing the right thing. And that's what I think all of you do every day. And it's what I frankly wish I saw a little more often in public service, a little more often here in Jefferson City in particular. And that story isn't really new to anyone here today. I know that everyone here has gone above and beyond for your clients and for the people in this state. In many cases, you've spent more time than you thought you would. You've taken things home emotionally or mentally with you at the end of the day. You've probably spent money out of your own pockets on more than one occasion, or invited people even into your homes. But that's what you do on a daily basis. And let's be honest about the fact that there sometimes are folks here in Jefferson City who are making it much harder or nearly impossible at times for you to reach the families that you want to reach, for you to help the people that you want to help, and for the state itself to reach those people. And I think right now the most troubling example of that, most discouraging example of that, has got to be our failure to act on Medicaid expansion. I have no doubt that you are as familiar as any group I could speak to in the state about this issue, but to me there are a couple things about it that stand out, one of which has got to be the fact that the federal government is willing to put up 96% of the money. 96% of the money, and those are tax dollars that we're already spending, already sending to the federal government, right? So it seems like a no-brainer to me and to everyone in this room, right? But it's not apparently a no-brainer if you are a member of the majority party in the legislature in Jefferson City. And that's a problem. It's discouraging, and it's something that is eroding. There's progress on it. But this is the best deal that Missouri has seen since the federal government bought us from France for 3 cents an acre. I mean, it is a no-brainer. And I think that we just have to be very honest about the fact that not liking the president very much or being afraid of losing a Republican primary are morally bankrupt reasons to deny health care to your constituents. So there are some times here in Jefferson City reasons to feel discouraged. And I have to tell you that I am on occasion guilty of that as well, that I can feel pretty discouraged. But then there are other times, like today, where I'm here and I'm standing at a podium addressing a room full of people who I know spend all their time trying to help Missourians, who spend all their time trying to make things better. And frankly, it is the people of this state, people like yourself, who I meet that energize me and that keep me moving forward. The folks who understand that this is a marathon and not a sprint, but it doesn't stop them from trying to sprint the whole marathon every single day, right? And that, it gives me energy, it gives me optimism, and it keeps me going. And we may be marking the 50th anniversary of the war on poverty today, but it is good to be in a room full of people who would stand in line to re-up in that fight. And I would stand with you. And we need to keep fighting, and we have to continue that fight, fighting for those families who can't necessarily bring that fight to Jefferson City on their own, fighting for the kids who, fighting for the fact that we believe that those kids all deserve a chance, regardless of their zip code, regardless of who their parents were, that all of them deserve a chance to maybe stand one day where I'm standing, or to just have the dignity of a living wage at some point, that those kids deserve that chance, and that's what we believe, that we, I think, believe in Medicaid expansion for that reason. We believe in Medicaid expansion because we believe that if you work, you deserve the ability to go to the doctor, and even if you don't, but the majority of these people are working. They're working Missourians, and I think that what separates, there are a few things that obviously separate this room from the people who left town a week ago, and one of those things is that you're not born on third believing that you hit a triple, and that's important. It's important to know that if you're on third base, you may or may not have hit a triple in the first place, and that not everybody gets born on third base. It's important to have that distinction, but I think the biggest thing that separates, and both of these groups I'm talking about, you and some members of the legislature, you're all public servants, but the difference is in those who want to do something and those who want to be something. And that, for me, has defined my public service, and I've tried to make it define my public service. So you have my word that I will take care of my small part of this fight, and I know that you will continue to take care of your larger part in this fight. And I know that you know that Missourians need you, and that you'll always be there for them. And what I would leave you with is we think about these fights, these legislative fights, on issues like Medicaid expansion. And now we've seen over the last few days where some more members of the majority party are coming out and saying that they might be in favor of Medicaid expansion. And it's interesting to me because we have now come to a place in this debate where doing something that the vast majority of Missourians know is right, the vast majority of the country know is right and is doing, has become a matter of political courage. And the reason that's interesting to me is because we throw this term political courage around a lot in this country. And it's an interesting term to me because when I think about it, when I think about the meaning of public service, I think about one mission in particular that I was involved in when I was in Afghanistan. I worked on this mission with Army Special Forces and with the Afghan Army to transport a newly elected member of the Afghan parliament from the capital back to her home. And the reason that she needed that escort was because she lived under a constant threat of death. Not because she made radical statements or because she pushed some hostile agenda or anything like that. She lived under a constant threat of death simply because she was a woman in the Afghan parliament. And I've often imagined what it must have been like when she went to take a so-called difficult vote, or a tough vote in the Afghan parliament. And I sincerely doubt that she gave a lot of thought to what one donor wanted. I don't think she stuck her finger in the air to figure out what the polls said. I think that with everything that she was risking to be there in the first place, that she just did what she thought was right, that she was there to do something and not just to be something. And I continue to be inspired by her service. I know that while we throw this term political courage around, I have seen with my own eyes a politician who had to have true courage, real courage, just to get up and go to work. So I'm inspired by her service as I'm inspired by your service. I appreciate everything that you do. It inspires me to try and do everything I can every day to make Missourians' lives better as their Secretary of State. I'm humbled by your service. I thank you for everything that you do, and I will always be in your corner in this fight. So thank you very much.